Strawberry. Despite its name, the strawberry isn't technically a true berry. The real fruits are the tiny yellow specks scattered across its surface, called achines, while the red flesh around them is actually swollen stem tissue. People have gathered strawberries since ancient times, but the large, juicy variety sold in stores today came from an accidental cross between two wild American species, first noticed in 18th century France. Its bright color and natural sweetness made it a symbol of early summer across much of the world, and its short growing season only added to that appeal. Even now, few fruits are as widely grown or as instantly recognized, whether eaten on their own or folded into a dessert. Blueberry. Unlike the strawberry, the blueberry is a genuine berry, formed from a single flower with its seeds held safely inside the flesh, rather than scattered across the outside. It grows wild throughout North America, where indigenous communities gathered it long before European settlers arrived, often drying it to last through the winter months. Wild blueberries tend to be smaller and sharper in flavor than the plump, cultivated varieties bred for supermarkets, which weren't developed until the early 20th century. Its deep blue-purple skin comes from natural pigments that also give the fruit its reputation as an unusually nutrient-rich choice. That reputation has only grown in recent decades, turning what was once a regional fruit into a year-round staple in kitchens everywhere. Raspberry. The raspberry belongs to a category of fruit that botanists call an aggregate, meaning it's made up of dozens of tiny segments, called drupelets, clustered tightly around a central core. When picked, that core stays behind on the plant, leaving the raspberry hollow in the middle, which is one of the simplest ways to tell it apart from similar fruits. Raspberries once grew wild across Europe and North America, often found along forest edges and riverbanks, long before cultivation began in earnest during the 16th century. Their soft, delicate texture makes them difficult to transport without bruising, so fresh raspberries have traditionally carried a higher price than sturdier fruits. Their bright color and tart sweetness have kept them a lasting favorite in jams and desserts alike. Blackberry. Like the raspberry, the blackberry is made up of many small drupelets clustered together, but with one key difference. When picked, its pale core comes away with the fruit instead of staying behind on the plant, giving it a fuller, more solid bite. Blackberries grow on thorny brambles found across much of the world, and they spread so easily in the wild that in some regions they're treated more as a stubborn weed than a prized crop. Long before anyone cultivated them on purpose, they were gathered from hedgerows and used both as food and in traditional remedies. Their deep, near black color and slightly tangy edge still set them apart from the softer, sweeter berries around them. Cranberry. Grown on low, trailing vines across wetland bogs, the cranberry is a true berry found mainly in the cooler regions of North America. Its firm texture traps a small pocket of air inside, letting it float, a trait growers still put to use by flooding the bogs at harvest time to gather the fruit more easily. On its own, the cranberry is notably tart, sharper than most other berries, so it's almost always paired with sugar in sauces, juices, and baked goods. Native American communities used it for more than food, working it into dyes and traditional remedies long before it became linked to one particular holiday meal. Few berries carry as strong a connection to a single table each year as this one does. Elderberry. There's an important warning attached to the elderberry, which grows in small, tight clusters on the elder shrub found across many temperate regions. Raw elderberries, along with the plant's leaves and stems, contain compounds that can cause nausea if eaten in any real quantity, so the berries are almost always cooked before use. Once heated, that risk disappears, leaving behind a fruit that has been turned into syrups, wines, and preserves for generations. Its dark purple color and slightly earthy taste have made it a familiar presence in folk remedies across Europe, often linked to easing colds through the winter months. That old reputation has carried into the present, where elderberry syrup still shows up on pharmacy shelves each flu season. Mulberry. Growing on a tree rather than a bush or vine, the mulberry is tied closely to one of history's most valuable industries. Silkworms feed almost exclusively on the leaves of the white mulberry tree, a relationship that made the plant essential to silk production in ancient China long before it spread elsewhere. The berries themselves come in white, red, and black varieties, with the darkest types generally tasting the sweetest and staining fingers with remarkable ease. Unlike sturdier berries, mulberries don't travel or store well once ripe, so they rarely appear in ordinary grocery stores and are more often found in home gardens or growing wild along streets. Their long, soft shape sets them apart from almost every other berry on this list. Boysenberry. The boysenberry isn't something nature produced on its own, but a deliberate cross between the raspberry, the blackberry, and a couple of other bramble fruits. It takes its name from Rudolph Boysen, a California grower who developed it in the early 20th century, though the berry only became widely known after another farmer, Walter Knott, tracked down Boysen's neglected vines and brought them back to life. The result is a large, wine-colored fruit that blends the tartness of blackberries with the sweetness of raspberries. Its size and juiciness made it especially well-suited to pies and preserves, and it became closely tied to the farm where it was first grown at scale. It remains a clear example of how deliberate breeding can shape what eventually lands in a grocery aisle. Acai berry. High High on a species of palm tree native to the Amazon rainforest, the acai berry grows in thick clusters near the top of the trunk. Communities throughout Brazil have relied on it as a dietary staple for generations, eating it far more regularly than as an occasional treat. Because the fruit spoils within a day of harvest, it rarely leaves South America fresh, and outside the region it usually appears frozen, pulped, or powdered instead. Its deep purple color comes from concentrated plant pigments, which helped drive its rise in international markets during the early 2000s as a so-called superfood. That shift turned the acai bowl into a common breakfast item thousands of miles from the rainforest it originally came from. Goji berry. It is also known as wolfberry. Native to parts of Asia, particularly China, the goji berry comes from a shrub that has featured in traditional medicine for centuries. Unlike most other berries, it's almost always sold dry, closer in appearance to a small red raisin than a plump, juicy fruit. Its chewy texture and mildly sweet, faintly tangy flavor make it more common in teas, soups, and trail mixes than something eaten alone in large amounts. In its native regions, it has long been paired with other ingredients believed to support overall wellness, a practice that predates its recent popularity in Western health food stores. That crossover into global markets turned a once regional ingredient into a familiar sight on shelves worldwide.